My name is Eliana Brooks. I'm 26 years old. And this is the story of how my parents threw me out with just $120 in my pocket, only to come crawling back when their world collapsed. It started during my final semester of high school. I was 17, tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of living a life that didn't feel like mine. To everyone else, we looked like a normal family. 2 hard-working parents, 1 quiet daughter. A middle-class household with a neatly trimmed lawn and walls filled with expectations. But behind those walls, love was conditional. Respect had to be earned through obedience. And any deviation from their plan was seen as betrayal. I was the deviation. My parents had a blueprint for me since I was a kid. Graduate with honors, attend a top university, get a secure office job, climb the ladder, marry well, have kids, and live a respectable life. They called it success. Called it suffocation. Because deep down I didn't want that life. I didn't want a cubicle or corporate meetings. I didn't want to spend my life ticking boxes on someone else's list. I loved color, texture, shapes, structure. I loved spaces, how they felt, how they changed people. I dreamed of becoming an interior designer. I'd been watching tutorials since I was 13, sketching layouts during biology class, even helping neighbors rearrange their rooms. I had a gift, and I knew it. But my mother, she didn't see talent. She saw failure. Interior design is just glorified decorating, she once snapped. You're wasting your potential. My father didn't even pretend to understand. To him, work meant sweat and sacrifice. He clocked in at the auto plant at 5 a.m. every day. He believed in real jobs. And anything outside that narrow window was fantasy. I kept my dream to myself for a long time. But when I got accepted into a 2-year accredited design program, with a partial scholarship based on my portfolio, I couldn't hide it anymore. I thought maybe they'd surprise me. Maybe, just maybe, they'd be proud. Instead, my mother cried. Not tears of joy, tears of shame. My father slammed his palm on the dining table so hard the plates jumped. "Are you kidding me, Eliana?" he shouted. "You want to throw away everything we gave you for some arts and crafts nonsense?" "It's not nonsense," cried back. "It's my life." They didn't listen. They never did. That night turned into a battlefield of words. I said things I never thought I'd have the courage to say. They said things that I'll never forget, even if I wanted to. My father's final words to me before he pointed to the door still echo in my mind. "If you walk out, don't come back." So I walked. I had $1,200 saved from part-time jobs. I left with a backpack, a duffel bag, and exactly $120 in cash. My mother didn't hug me goodbye. She didn't even look at me. She just muttered, "You'll come crawling back." But I never did. I stood outside in the rain, staring at the house I'd grown up in. The lights were on in the living room, but it felt colder than the street I stood on. That was the last time I ever saw that home. I crashed on my best friend Mila's couch for the first 2 weeks. Her family didn't ask questions, they just let me stay. But I knew it couldn't be forever. I applied for emergency assistance and was able to get temporary youth housing in a shared apartment. It wasn't much. Just a small room with creaky floors and a mattress on the ground, but it was mine. I got a job at a local hardware store stocking shelves after school, and on weekends I worked at a diner washing dishes. I took the bus to class and back, spent nights buried in coursework, and learned to stretch $1 better than anyone. I made a rule. Never miss a payment, never skip a meal, and never look back. But that didn't mean I wasn't hurting. I cried most nights those first few months. Not because I regretted leaving, but because I missed what never truly existed. Family. Support. Someone to say, "I believe in you." I had none of that. Every birthday passed without a call. Every Christmas came without a card. My mother blocked me on Facebook. My father acted like I was dead. And honestly, maybe I was, to them. But I was still alive. Barely. Quietly. Lowly. And I was determined to make it. My professors at the design program were tough but brilliant. One of them, a woman named Ms. Hampton, saw something in me. "You've got an eye for composition," she said after reviewing my first project. Don't waste it. That small encouragement carried me through more than she'll ever know. I graduated at the top of my class 2 years later. By then, I had a modest portfolio of small freelance jobs, room makeovers, Airbnb staging, even a coffee shop redesign that got shared locally online. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real, and it was mine. I worked hard, every day, every hour. I didn't take weekends off for almost 3 years. I taught myself bookkeeping, social media marketing, and even learned basic carpentry just so I could offer custom solutions to clients who couldn't afford high-end fixes. I became known around town not just as the girl who left home, but the girl who rebuilt one. For herself. Then, almost 9 years after I walked out of my parents' house, I got a message on LinkedIn that stopped my heart. It was from my brother, Jonah. Eliana. Mom and Dad are in trouble. Dad lost the house. I'm sick. They want to talk to you. I stared at the message for 10 full minutes, hands trembling. 9 years. No calls. No birthdays. No apologies. And now they wanted to talk. I clicked on his profile. His status read, "Looking for work." I closed my laptop and leaned back, eyes burning. They were losing everything. And for the first time they needed me. I didn't respond to Jonah's message that night. I couldn't. My chest ached with a swirl of emotions I didn't know how to name. Anger, bitterness, strange, hollow sadness. The truth was, I thought I'd buried them. After 9 years of silence, I had built a life they never believed in. A business with real clients, a name that carried weight in my city's design circles, and a small but loyal online following that brought in steady work. I wasn't rich, but I was respected, independent, free. And now they wanted to talk. Talk about what? How they slammed the door in my face when I needed them most. How they mocked my dreams and predicted my failure like they were hoping for it. I didn't owe them anything. But still I couldn't sleep that night. I opened an old folder on my laptop, the one labeled before. It was filled with photos from high school, birthday parties, school projects, family dinners, smiling faces and fake laughter frozen in pixels. Looking at them made me feel like I was staring into someone else's life. Because none of it was real. Not for me. The next morning, I woke up to another message from Jonah. "They've lost everything, Eli. Dad got laid off last year. Mom's medical bills are piling up. They sold the car, moved into a rental apartment, but even that's not gonna last. I know they were awful to you. I'm not defending them. But they're not the same. They've changed." Scoff. People don't change until they have to. And even then, it's usually too late. But still, I read the message 5 times. And then, against every logical bone in my body, I typed a reply. "I'm not promising anything. But I'll think about it." I didn't hit send right away. I stared at the blinking cursor like it was challenging me. Then finally, with a sharp exhale, I tapped the screen. Message sent. That afternoon I went about my day like usual. 2 client meetings. A walkthrough at a job site. A run to the fabric store. But the pit in my stomach never left. My past was creeping back in through the cracks of my present. Later that night Jonah called. "Eliana," he said. His voice sounded older. Rougher. "Thank you for replying. They don't even know I messaged you. I couldn't sit by and watch them sink. I thought maybe." "Let me stop you right there," I said. "I'm not coming to save them." Then a soft, resigned, "I know." I rubbed my temples and let out a long breath. "What happened?" He explained everything. My dad had been laid off from the plant after 25 years. The factory downsized, replaced dozens of workers with automation. My mother had been diagnosed with early-stage cancer and hadn't been able to work since. Their savings were gone. Medical bills, rent, utilities, it was all crashing down on them. They were living off charity from their church and handouts from neighbors. "They're not proud anymore," Jonah said quietly. "They're tired." "Good," I said coldly before I could stop myself. Jonah didn't respond. He knew better than to argue. We ended the call shortly after. I told him I'd think about meeting them. That was it. And then I sat in my living room, surrounded by the life I had built. Cozy two-bedroom loft I'd designed from scratch. My own art on the walls. A calendar filled with paid clients. Cup of tea cooling in my hands. They had thrown me out with $120. And now I had enough to buy their entire block. The next day, I drove past the old neighborhood on impulse. It had changed. The sidewalks were cracked. The houses aged faster than I remembered. But their house, the one I'd once called home, stood empty. Peeling paint. For sale sign. Weeds clawing up the porch. I wasn't sure what I felt. Relief. Closure. Or maybe nothing at all. That night, Jonah messaged again. They'd like to meet you. No pressure. Just talk. I agreed. Out of curiosity, not compassion. Chose the cafe. Neutral territory. Public. No dramatics. When I walked in, I almost didn't recognize them. My mother looked smaller. Ill. Her hair thinner than I remembered. My father, once broad-shouldered and stern, was hunched over. His hands trembling slightly as he held his coffee cup. Age and worry had carved into them like a sculptor with no mercy. Eliana, my mother whispered when she saw me. I sat across from them. I didn't hug them. Didn't smile. Waited. For once, they were the ones who didn't know what to say. My father cleared his throat. We're glad you came. I'm not here to catch up, I said flatly. You wanted to talk. So talk. They exchanged a look. My mother nodded. We were wrong. About everything. I didn't flinch. We pushed you away, she continued, tears pooling in her eyes. We didn't support you. We judged you. And we lost you. I'm sorry, Eliana. Truly. Silence. Then my father spoke. You were brave. We didn't see it then. We see it now. You made something out of nothing. We're proud of you. For a moment I didn't breathe. That was the first time he had ever said those words to me. And I didn't trust them. Not yet. I stood up. I appreciate the apology, I said, voice calm but cold. But you don't get to come back into my life just because yours is falling apart. I built this life without you. I survived without you. You don't get credit now. My mother sobbed quietly. My father lowered his eyes. I'm not the same girl who left, I said. I'm not here to save you. But I'll think about whether I can forgive you. And with that I walked out of the cafe. For the first time in years, the sun hit my skin without shadow. I'd taken back my power. But this story was far from over. 'Cause what happened next would change everything. I walked out of that cafe with my spine straight and my hands clenched. I didn't cry. Not there, not in front of them. I owed them nothing. Not my vulnerability, not my forgiveness, not even my grief. But when I got home, I collapsed onto the couch and stared at the ceiling for what felt like hours. They said they were proud. They said they were sorry. But only after losing everything. Only after the world stripped away their pride, their status, and their house. Would they have changed if life hadn't humbled them? Or was this just desperation wearing the mask of apology? I didn't know. And the uncertainty gnawed at me. The next week passed in a fog. Kept working. Took meetings. Finalized 3-room layouts for a boutique hotel I'd landed through a referral. But in quiet moments, in the car, in the shower, over my morning coffee, I found myself thinking about them. About the girl who stood in the rain with $120 in her pocket and no one to call family. She was still inside me. And she still hurt. One night, I opened my email and saw a message from my mother. Subject: Please just read. Eliana, I know we don't deserve your kindness. I know we threw you away when we should have held you closer. I think about that night every single day. I wanted to tell you that we're not asking for money. We're just asking to be heard. To be seen by the daughter we failed. Your father is sick with shame, but he'll never say it out loud. He's not the same man he used to be. We are broken people, Eliana. You were right to leave. But maybe we were wrong to let you go so easily. Please consider giving us a chance to show you we've changed. Love always. I closed the laptop and stared at the blank TV screen across the room, my reflection faint in the dark glass. They wanted a chance, but part of me still wanted revenge. Not the screaming, dramatic, vengeful kind. I didn't want to hurt them the way they hurt me. No, I wanted them to see me, to need me, to realize that the daughter they discarded was the very person who now held the power to change, or ignore, their fate. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to let them sit in that truth for a while longer. That same week, something unexpected happened. I got an email from the city's Housing Revitalization Department. They were putting together a design panel to oversee the transformation of 3 abandoned neighborhoods into mixed-use residential spaces, and they wanted me to join the advisory board. I read the email 3 times, then laughed out loud. The neighborhoods listed. One of them included the street where I grew up. The one I had walked away from at 17. The same street where my parents' now vacant house still sat, waiting to be torn down or saved. I was being asked to help redesign the very blocks I'd been exiled from. Talk about full circle. At the next project meeting, I brought up a proposal to preserve several historic homes that still had potential, including my old house. I didn't mention the connection. I kept it professional. But inside something shifted. I wasn't just rebuilding other people's homes anymore. I was rewriting my own past. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a realtor I sometimes worked with. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "One of the properties up for redevelopment, your parents' old house? It's going up for auction." Pause. Auction? Yeah. Bank foreclosure. Starting bid is 32 grand. House is a wreck. But the lot is good. It could be worth 6 times that in a year with the city's new development incentives. I thanked her and hung up, heart pounding. I stared at my apartment walls, the ones I had painted myself, adorned with artwork from my travels, textures I'd sourced from estate sales and salvage yards. Everything I owned was earned, fought for. And now, I could buy the house they kicked me out of, own it, redesign it, or destroy it. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jonah. "Dad's been asking about you." Quietly. He wanted to know if you were okay. I didn't reply. Instead, I called my attorney. 3 weeks later, the house was mine. I didn't even attend the auction in person. I sent a rep. It was done with a wire transfer and a signature. A house that once slammed its door in my face now belonged to me. And I had plans for it. But first I had to see it with my own eyes. I drove there on a cloudy Thursday morning. The sky hung low, threatening rain, just like the day I'd left all those years ago. I parked across the street and stepped out slowly. The house looked even worse up close. Boards over the windows, gutters sagging, paint peeling like it was ashamed of what covered the walls. Grass knee-high, rotting porch steps. It smelled like mildew and dust and secrets. I walked through the front door with a key in my hand. Every room felt like a ghost. The kitchen still had the same layout. The same cracked tile where I dropped a plate during one of our last family dinners. The hallway still creaked in the same spot. My old bedroom had holes in the drywall, but my name was still faintly carved into the window frame. Eliana was here. Yes, she was. And now she was back. Only this time she had the deed. I took out my phone and started snapping photos. Not to post. Not for anyone else. Just for me. Proof. This house didn't break me. Built me. I spent the next few weeks drafting a redesign plan. I'd turn it into a transitional housing center for youth aging out of foster care or escaping unsafe homes. It would be modern, warm, and safe. Everything I didn't have when I walked away at 17. It would be called the Brooks House. Named after me. Not them. And when my mother called again, because of course she did, I answered. "Eliana," she said cautiously. "Your brother said. He said you bought the house." "I did," I said flatly. "I see." There was a pause then. "What are you going to do with it?" I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "I'm going to build something beautiful." She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she whispered, "We really lost you, didn't we?" "No," I said softly. "You threw me away." And then I hung up. The next few months were a blur of transformation. On paper, on walls, and inside me. I poured every ounce of my experience, creativity, and grit into the Brooks house. It wasn't just a project anymore. It was a mission. A place for kids like me. Kids with dreams deemed unrealistic, with voices dismissed at dinner tables, with no family safety net to catch them when life knocked them off their feet. I partnered with a local nonprofit that specialized in transitional youth housing. They helped me with the logistics, permits, staffing, outreach. I took care of the rest. Every light fixture, every tile, every inch of fabric, color, and design. This house was going to be more than walls and windows. It was going to be proof that even broken things can become beautiful again. Every time I walked through the construction site, boots crunching over sawdust, I felt something inside me healing. Like I was stitching up the ripped pages of my story, not to erase the pain, but to write a better ending. And just as the final coat of paint was drying, the news spread. The Brooks house made the front page of the local paper. Abandoned childhood home transformed into safe haven for teens. My inbox exploded. Former classmates, clients, reporters, even strangers. But one email stopped me cold. From Jonah Brooks. Subject: Can we meet? I hadn't spoken to him since the cafe. He'd respected the distance. But now, reading his message, I knew something had changed. Eliana. Mom and Dad saw the article. They read every word. Dad didn't say anything for hours afterward. Just kept staring out the window. They'd like to come see it. I know you have every reason to say no. But I had to ask. They know it's yours now. And they finally understand what that means. Please think about it. Jonah. I closed my laptop and walked into the kitchen. My hands trembled as I poured a glass of water. Did I want them to see it? Did I want to let them step inside the house that once rejected me, now rebuilt with the love and labor they had denied me? I didn't owe them that. But maybe I owed it to myself, to face them not as the daughter they discarded, but as the woman they never thought I'd become. 2 days later I agreed. They came on a Sunday morning. Quiet, hesitant, changed. My mother wore a long beige coat. Her hair tucked neatly under a scarf. My father looked thinner, older. His pride hanging by a thread. I met them outside the front gate. They didn't rush forward. They didn't speak. We just stood there. 3 people, 1 memory between us. A house that had once been a battlefield. Now reborn. This is beautiful, my mother finally whispered. It's not your home anymore, I said gently but firmly. It's not mine either. Not really. It belongs to people who need it now. They nodded. I opened the door and let them in. The foyer gleamed with soft lighting and warm tones. The kitchen was open, airy, full of color. The bedrooms upstairs were furnished with handmade beds, murals, shelves of donated books. A communal workspace filled with art supplies and blueprints lined the back room. Everything about it said, "You are safe. You matter. You are welcome." My father stopped at the staircase, the one he once stood on as he yelled at me to leave. He turned to me. His eyes were glassy, rimmed red. "I was wrong," he said. 3 words I had waited my whole life to hear. "I didn't see you. I didn't see who you were. And when I finally did, it was too late." "No," I said quietly. "It wasn't too late for me. But it might be too late for us." My mother reached for my hand. "I know we can't undo what we did," she said. "But we're trying. And if you ever find room in your heart, we'd like to be part of your life again. Even if only a small part." I let the silence settle. Then I said the hardest thing I'd ever said to them. "I forgive you. But we're not going back to what we were. I won't pretend none of it happened. I won't erase the hurt just because time passed." They nodded, tears slipping freely now. "We understand," my mother said. "I don't want your money," my father added. "I just want you to know I'm proud of you. Not because you proved me wrong, but because you proved yourself right." That broke me. Not into pieces but open. I nodded slowly. "I'll invite you to the ribbon cutting. After that, we'll see." They left quietly, and I watched them go. Not with hate, not even with anger, but with peace. For the first time in nearly a decade I felt it. Not justice, not revenge. Something better. Freedom. The day of the ribbon cutting arrived under a cloudless sky, with the sun casting gold on the fresh white siding of the Brooks house. The event had drawn more people than I expected. City officials, local nonprofits, youth advocates, and even a few former classmates who'd once whispered that I'd never make it. I stood on the small wooden platform we'd set up in the front yard, the new sign gleaming beside me. My hands trembled, not from nerves, but from the weight of it all. Behind me stood everything I'd built. In front of me the people I was doing it for. The house that once symbolized rejection had become a beacon. When it came time for me to speak, I didn't write a long speech. I didn't want something rehearsed. I just told the truth. 9 years ago, I left this house with $120 and no plan. I was told I'd come crawling back. I didn't. I built something because no one else would build it for me. The crowd was quiet. I looked down at my parents, standing off to the side. My mother wiped her eyes. My father stood still, his face unreadable. I continued. The Brooks house is for those who don't have a place to go when the world turns cold. It's a place for healing, for starting over. And it's living proof that where you begin doesn't define where you'll end up. The applause came slow at first, then built. But I barely heard it. Because in that moment, I was no longer that scared girl on the doorstep. I was someone new. After the event, I stayed behind while most people filtered away. A few kids who'd already been selected to move in wandered through the rooms with wide eyes and hesitant smiles. I walked with them, answered questions, showed them the art room, the shared kitchen. They didn't say much, but they didn't have to. I saw myself in every single one of them. That night, after everyone was gone, I sat on the front steps as the sun dipped low. Jonah pulled up in his car and got out, walking over with 2 coffees. "You did something big here," he said, handing me a cup. I took it, still staring at the house. "I didn't do it to prove them wrong," I said quietly. "I did it to prove me right." "I know," he said. "But it still hit them hard. Seeing this, realizing how far you've come." I glanced over at him. "Do they understand now?" Jonah hesitated. "I think they're starting to. But change doesn't happen overnight. You know that better than anyone." I sipped the coffee and nodded. We sat in silence for a while. The sky turned orange and then purple. Lights came on inside the house. "I have to tell you something," Jonah said suddenly. "What?" His face darkened. "They tried to sell your story." I turned sharply. "What?" "A reporter from a tabloid reached out a few weeks ago. Wanted to do a redemption feature on them. About how they raised a successful daughter. They were tempted. Money's tight. And, well, you know how they are." My stomach twisted. "Did they do it?" "No. I stopped it," he said firmly. "I told them if they tried to profit off your pain, I'd cut them off completely." I stared at him, unsure what to say. "I'm not defending them," he added. "But I think you should know. They're still learning. Still flawed. But at least now, they're aware of it." I let out a long breath. "Thank you." He smiled faintly. "I wish I'd been a better brother back then. I should have stood up for you." "You were just a kid too," I said. "We were all trying to survive in that house." He looked at me, guilt in his eyes. "Still, I'm proud of you. For everything." And for the first time I believed someone when they said it. Later that night, back at my apartment, I found another message waiting in my inbox. From Valerie Sutton. Executive Director, Sutton and Cross Interiors. Eliana. I've been following your work since the Brooks house made headlines. I'd love to invite you to consult on a national design campaign we're launching for low-income youth centers across 5 major cities. You'd be a creative lead with full design control, and we'd compensate you accordingly. If you're interested, I'd love to schedule a call. I reread the email twice. Then I let my head fall back against the couch. The girl they said would never make it. She was now being invited to lead national projects. I didn't reply right away. I let myself enjoy the moment, soak in the quiet victory. The kind that doesn't need to be screamed or posted. The kind that settles deep in your soul and whispers, "You did it." But peace is never permanent, especially when the past is still watching. The very next morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. Not from clients. From people I hadn't spoken to in years. Apparently, my mother had posted a long emotional message on Facebook, tagging me, talking about reconnecting with her daughter, how forgiveness had healed our family, and how, through God's grace, we found our way back to each other. She had posted photos from the ribbon cutting, close-ups of me, of the house, of her and my father standing outside like proud parents. And worst of all, she started a GoFundMe page. The title, "Help Two Parents Rebuild After Years of Estrangement." I stared at the screen in stunned silence. They had learned nothing. I stared at my phone, heart pounding in my chest. The screen glowed with betrayal. My mother had plastered my face across social media like some kind of victory badge. Like we were a healed family. Like all the pain and silence and nights I cried into a pillow meant nothing now that I had a ribbon in my hand and success in my name. Worse, they were using my name to ask strangers for money. Money that I had bled for, grubbed dishes for, pulled 14-hour days for. Not a dime of what I had came easy. And now, after standing quietly at the edge of my spotlight, they were trying to drag me into theirs. One built on guilt, fake smiles, and filtered captions. I didn't care about the likes. I didn't care about their image. But I cared about the lie. Call Jonah. He picked up on the first ring. I saw it. I swear I didn't know. She posted photos of me, Jonah. She didn't even ask. I know, he said, voice low. I tried to stop her. But she said it was her truth. That people deserved to see what healing looked like. This isn't healing, I hissed. It's performance. I'll talk to them. No, I snapped. I'll talk to them. I drove to their apartment. It was a modest unit in a weathered complex on the edge of town. Paint peeling. Laundry hanging over railings. It was humbling, and probably why the GoFundMe had tugged at some hearts already. Last I checked, it had raised over $800 in a few hours. But not for long. My mother opened the door in a robe, surprised to see me. "Eliana," she gasped. "Honey, did you see the post?" I stepped inside, calm and cold. "Yes. That's why I'm here." My father sat on the couch, shifting uncomfortably as I entered. "Why did you do it?" "Yes. Why take what we had, what little we were trying to rebuild, and turn it into a public show?" "We were just sharing our story," she said, voice small. "People should know that families can come back together." "No," I said flatly. "What you did was use my story. My face. My house. You hijacked my narrative to make yourself look like a victim of heartbreak instead of the cause of it." "Eliana." "No," I cut her off. "I forgave you. I opened the door to you. But I didn't invite you to rewrite history." Her face flushed. "We just thought. You thought you could profit from me. Again. Just like you tried to profit off my education, my silence, my absence. But not anymore." I pulled out a folded sheet of paper from my bag and dropped it on their chipped coffee table. My mother blinked. "What's that?" "Cease and desist," I said. "You'll take the post down. You'll delete the GoFundMe. And you'll never ever use my name, my image, or my story in public again." Her face went pale. "You wouldn't." "I already did," I said. "I've retained legal counsel. The moment you try to spin my life into your narrative again, I'll respond publicly, with the truth. And believe me, your reputation won't survive it." My father stood up now, hands raised. "Eliana, we were just desperate. We didn't mean harm." "You meant convenience," I said, voice breaking for the first time. "You meant to use me." Again. Tears welled in my mother's eyes. "We just thought if people saw how far we'd come as a family." "We are not a family," I said, trembling now. "You made that choice 9 years ago. You threw me out and told yourselves I'd fail. And now that I've succeeded, you think you're entitled to share the spotlight." She said nothing. A sob. I turned to the door. "I meant what I said before. I forgave you. But forgiveness isn't a pass. It's not a reset button. It's a boundary. One that you just crossed." My father's voice cracked. "Please don't walk away again." I looked at them both. Two people who had built a narrative around control and shame, now watching that narrative collapse under the weight of their own choices. "I'm not walking away," I said. "I'm just choosing not to stay." And I left. That night I posted something on my own page. Just a single paragraph, no photos, no names. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Healing is not performance. And success does not mean silence. I built my life from the ground up. Anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't know the story. Or worse, they've rewritten it. The post went viral. Messages flooded in. People I didn't know sent paragraphs of their own stories. Survivors of toxic families. Adults who were once abandoned children. People who had chosen healing over family expectations. For once, I didn't feel alone. The next morning I checked the GoFundMe. My mother's post. Deleted. And my inbox. Full of offers. Brand collaborations. Speaking events. Even a book deal proposal. But the one message that stood out came from a girl named Kendra. Christine. Kicked out of her house for refusing to follow her family's rigid plan. She wrote, "I saw your story. I'm scared. But because of you I don't feel crazy. Thank you for building the Brooks house. I'm applying. I hope you'll accept me." I wrote back immediately. "I see you, Kendra. And you're not crazy. You're brave. Welcome home." 3 months later, the Brooks house was full of life. Every room had a voice. Laughter echoed through hallways that had once been silent. Music drifted from the shared kitchen, where mismatched mugs and cheap plates carried warmth more powerful than porcelain. The mural in the upstairs common area, painted by the very residents who now called this place home, read in bold color, "You are not your past. You are your persistence." I stood in the doorway that morning, coffee in hand, watching Kendra and 2 others rearrange donated books on the shelves we built together. She caught my eye and smiled. "I color-coded them," she said proudly. "Hope that's okay." "It's perfect," I smiled back. She didn't know what it meant to me to hear joy in her voice, to see light in her eyes, to see the girl I once was, now given the space to become someone new. That's what the Brooks house had become, more than a refuge, more than a project. It was a mirror, and a monument, to everyone who had ever been told they were too much or not enough. To every dreamer who was told to sit down, be quiet, get real. To every child whose family couldn't, or wouldn't, see who they really were. Later that day, I stood in what used to be my old bedroom, now converted into a small art therapy space. A young boy named Elijah sat on the floor, sketching silently, headphones in. I didn't interrupt. I just watched. This room used to be the scene of so many tears. The place I whispered affirmations into the dark, praying I wasn't crazy for wanting a different life. Now it held creation, not confusion. Freedom, not fear. At the end of the week, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting instantly. It was from my father. "Eliana, I don't expect a response. I just wanted to say thank you. Not for helping us, but for becoming the kind of person who could help others. I was wrong. About what mattered. About you. I spent so long trying to make you small so I could feel big. I see that now. You're not just successful. You're powerful. I hope you'll forgive me someday fully. Not because I deserve it, but because you do. Love." I folded the letter slowly and placed it in my desk drawer. Maybe I'd forgive him. Maybe I already had. But the truth was, I didn't need his apology to move on. I had already moved forward. That weekend, I gave a TED-style talk at a local women's conference. The room was packed. I stood under bright lights, microphone clipped to my collar, and told them what no one had told me at 17. When the people who raise you don't believe in you, raise yourself. When the door closes behind you, don't wait for them to open it. Build your own house. And when they come back years later asking to be let in, don't open the door unless it serves you. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. But boundaries are how you protect that gift. The standing ovation was humbling. But what struck me more was what happened afterward. A line formed. Women, teenagers, even middle-aged men, sharing pieces of their stories. Some of them sobbed. Others just hugged me without saying a word. And I realized something I hadn't until that moment. I wasn't just living my truth. I was giving others permission to live theirs. That night, back home in my apartment, I sat on the couch. Barefoot, a glass of wine in my hand, my dog curled at my feet, and watched the sunset through the floor-to-ceiling windows. My phone buzzed. Another message from Jonah. Mom's health is improving. She started volunteering at the shelter. Dad's picking up part-time work at the church. They still talk about you every day. But this time it's with respect. They've changed more than I expected. Thought you should know. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care. But because I was finally at peace. Not the kind of peace that comes when everyone says sorry. The kind of peace that comes when you no longer need them to. I got up, walked over to the bookshelf and took down a frame. Inside was a photo I'd taken the day the Brooks house opened. No parents. No forced smiles. Just me. Holding the keys. Beneath the photo was a quote I wrote in marker the day I closed on the house. They threw me out with $120. I turned it into an empire. And I meant every word. Eliana's story isn't just about revenge. It's about reclamation. About turning pain into power, silence into strength, and abandonment into freedom. In a world where too many dreams are dismissed, Eliana built her own door and walked through it. What would you have done in her place? Have you ever been told you'd never make it, only to prove them wrong? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, subscribe to Revenge Echoes, where the past gets rewritten by those bold enough to take back the pen.